Wind roared, and the rain poured down like a deluge at the edge of the abyss, as I swallowed a mouthful of saliva mixed with the metallic sweet tang of blood. I stared ahead at 3 Foundation establishment cultivators clad in crimson blood robes, closing in on me in a triangular formation. The killing intent radiating from them had nearly condensed into a physical manifestation. Wen Wu, hand over the item in your possession and I shall leave your corpse intact, he demanded. I did not spare him a glance, instead reaching into my palm, which was stained with mud and fresh blood. I held a medicinal pill the size of a longan fruit. In the southern territory of the immortal world, such a divine object exists only in legends. 9-pattern pill? That is impossible. You are merely a lowly rogue cultivator. How could you possibly refine such a divine treasure? Who told you I refined it? Without a moment's hesitation, I cast this peerless divine elixir into my mouth. The moment the pill entered my mouth, it dissolved, and a colossal surge of spiritual energy erupted within my body. Thunderclouds gathered, for the Heavenly Tribulation was about to descend. I gripped the gourd against my chest, feeling the newly birthed power as I let out a thunderous laugh. But that was a story for 30 years in the future. 30 years ago, I could not even afford a single low-grade chi condensation pill, let alone consume a celestial elixir before the eyes of others. My name is Wen Wu, yet I possessed neither literary talent nor martial prowess. I was merely the most unremarkable among the 3,000 outer disciples of the Linglong sect. At 15, my 5 elements false spirit root was measured, and I was only reluctantly accepted. Relegated to this medicinal herb garden halfway up the mountain. The immortal world is cruel. Without talent or a background, I had to haul water and fertilize the grass from dawn until dusk. Each stalk of this grass sells for 2 spirit stones. I must submit 50 stalks monthly, and only the surplus serves as my rations and cultivation resources. I have been farming here for 3 years. Wen Wu, what are you dawdling for? Hurry up and fetch the water. Today, I was once again unable to execute the spirit jade technique. Here, I am currently only at the first level of chi condensation. It had taken 3 long years of effort for me to step from a mortal into the path. This path of chi refinement is so agonizingly slow that it drives one to despair. If I do not achieve a breakthrough to the 2nd level by the end of the year, I will be expelled from the mountain and forced to return to the life of a mortal. Having glimpsed the path of immortality, being cast back into the red dust is more agonizing than death itself. That evening, before the sky turned completely dark, I hurried to the edge of the soul-severing forest to gather wild bitter extinction grass. This herb is of little value, but when chewed and applied to the shoulders, it eases the bruising caused by the water buckets. The soul-severing forest is a forbidden land inhabited by high-level demonic beasts. I only dared to linger along the outer perimeter. Just as I stooped to pluck the grass, a thick, pungent scent of blood filled my nostrils. My heart skipped a beat. Relying on instinct, I dropped to the ground and held my breath. In the immortal world, curiosity is the swiftest path to an early grave. After waiting for half an incense stick's time, there was no movement in the surroundings, save for the chilling cry of crows. I gathered my courage, crawled toward the scent of blood, and pushed aside the thicket of trees. I beheld 2 corpses, a middle-aged man in black robes with a gaping hole blown through his chest, and a gaunt Taoist elder, his neck impaled by a broken blade. It was evident that a brutal life-and-death struggle had transpired here. They had perished together. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was clearly a case of murder for treasures, and my first instinct was to flee. But, clutching my own empty storage bag, and thinking of the upcoming year-end assessment, I gritted my teeth and crept closer. My apologies to these 2 seniors. Since you are already dead, it is better to bestow your belongings upon the living, like me. I muttered to myself while nimbly searching their remains. Alas, the man in black's storage bag was shattered to pieces, and the Taoist elder didn't even possess one. I had gained nothing at all. I sighed, silently cursing myself for the wasted effort and fear. But just as I prepared to stand, I noticed the Taoist's stiffened hand was tightly clutching an object. I pried his fingers open with great effort. It was a gourd the size of a palm, neither metal nor wood, appearing weathered and uneven. It looked exactly like the low-quality gourds sold for a few copper coins in the markets of the mortal realm. I picked it up and gave it a shake. A rustling sound echoed from within as if it contained small seeds. Following my intuition, I tucked the gourd into my robes, hastily covered the bloodstains with dirt, and fled the soul-severing forest without once looking back. At that moment, I had no idea just how drastically this unremarkable gourd would change things. The destiny of a mortal at the very bottom of the cultivation world. I returned to my dilapidated wooden shack, where the wind whistled through every crevice. The sky had already plunged into total darkness. I immediately barred the door. I tipped over the broken-legged wooden table to block the entrance, and leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. My back was drenched in cold sweat. The life of a Lola cultivator is worth even less than a blade of grass. Had I been seen looting the dead, any outer sect disciple could have crushed me like an ant to seize the treasure. Sitting in the shadows for a long time, only after my heart rate had steadied, did I carefully draw out the gourd. The room remained dark, void of any lamp, leaving me to rely solely on the moonlight filtering through the torn window to examine the spoils I had traded my life to obtain. It was neither gold nor jade. At first glance, it appeared to be a gray stone, worn smooth and jagged, yet it was remarkably lightweight. I attempted to probe it with a thread of spiritual energy, but it was like a pebble dropped into an endless sea. There was not a single ripple. There was no fluctuation of spiritual power whatsoever, failing to reach even the standard of the most inferior Dharma artifact. Could it merely be an ordinary vessel for mortals? Yet that old man had clutched it tightly even in death. That certainly defied reason. There was no scent of immortality or fragrance. Instead, a pungent, scorched odor assaulted my senses, reminiscent of medicinal dregs on the verge of being burned to ash. I hastily tipped the contents into my palm. With a dry rattling sound, 3 pitch-black pills rolled out. Upon closer inspection, my heart turned cold, and my hopes were halved. These were failed pills, the byproduct of botched alchemy, possessing no medicinal efficacy, only an abundance of fire toxins and impurities. Should a cultivator consume these, they would suffer, at best blocked meridians, and at worst immediate death. No wonder he was so destitute that he didn't even possess a spatial storage bag. He was nothing more than a rogue cultivator whose alchemy had driven him into chi deviation. His hands were filled with nothing but lethal poisons. Just as I prepared to discard the gourd entirely, a sudden anomaly occurred. The moon was full that night, casting a shroud of lunar radiance. The moment the moonlight touched the gray surface of the gourd, an extremely faint luminescence shimmered into existence. Had the night not been so dark, I would never have noticed it. I rubbed my eyes and leaned in close, watching as the moonlight transformed into a thin silver thread, slowly but resolutely weaving its way into the rough surface of the gourd. As the lunar essence poured in, it began to grow warm. Its color deepened as it absorbed the moonlight. I was stunned. Anything capable of autonomously absorbing the essence of heaven and earth was, without question, a profound treasure. My fingers trembled as a wild thought flickered in my mind. What was this gourd truly absorbing the moonlight for? I looked at the scorched, failed pills, then back at the gourd that seemed to be breathing under the moonlight. I carefully returned the failed pills into the gourd. I sealed it tightly, with a decayed wooden stopper. Rather than stowing it away, I placed it upright in the spot where the moonlight shone the brightest. That night I did not cultivate, nor did I sleep. I remained motionless like an earthen statue, staring at it, not daring to blink even once. It was not until the horizon began to brighten that the moonlight faded. The luminescence on the surface of the gourd vanished entirely, and it returned to looking like a piece of junk that no one would bother picking up even if they saw it on the side of the road. My hand trembled as I reached out to pull the decayed wooden stopper out once more. At the moment I withdrew the stopper, I instinctively held my breath, fearing I would smell the stench of fire toxins. The room was deathly silent, replaced instead by a faint, pristine fragrance. The scent carried the pure essence of herbs and vegetation. As I inhaled, the lingering fatigue from a sleepless night began to dissipate. I swallowed hard and poured the contents of the gourd into my palm. I stared intensely at the 3 pills, my breathing becoming heavy in an instant. The jagged, pitch-black trash pills that were once there had vanished. In their place sat 3 pills of a soft pale green hue. Their surfaces were smooth and polished, even emitting a faint ethereal luster. Back at the outer sect market of the Qingmu sect, I had seen this type of medicine. This was a spirit condensation pill, the most fundamental elixir used by cultivators at the early stage of qi refining to advance their cultivation, and also the most commonly used. At the market, a single low-grade spirit condensation pill sold for 3 low-grade spirit stones. For a disciple like me in a month, I could only scrape together a few spiritual herbs. For a bottom-tier outer disciple such as myself, 3 spirit stones was an astronomical sum. But what terrified me even more was that the 3 spirit condensation pills in my hand were perfectly uniform in color, completely devoid of any impurities. These were certainly not ordinary low-grade elixirs. At the very least, they were of mid-grade quality, perhaps even top-grade. This gray gourd could refine trash pills. A mad thought exploded in my mind, making my scalp tingle. No wonder that gaunt old man, a mere rogue cultivator, dared to carry so many lethal trash pills with him. He must have accidentally come into possession of this gourd, discovered its secret, and was preparing to harness the moonlight to transform dross into treasure. It is a pity that before he could enjoy this stroke of fortune, he perished in the soul-severing forest, ultimately bestowing his legacy upon me. I was so agitated that my entire body trembled. Yet I had been struggling at the bottom of the ladder for 3 long years. An outer disciple of the Spirit Lung sect knows well that at moments like these, one must not grow arrogant or complacent. The sinister and strange methods of the cultivation world are too numerous. What if these things merely resembled spirit condensation pills on the surface, but in reality contained hidden fire toxins that would rot one's entrails upon ingestion? I proceeded with the utmost caution. Reaching under the bed, I pulled out a rusted bone dagger and lightly scraped a pinch of powder from the surface of the pale green pill. Afterward, I touched the powder with my fingertip and carefully placed it into my mouth. Boom. Though it was but a minuscule amount of powder, the moment it touched my tongue, it transformed into a surge of pure temperate warmth. It flowed down my throat and straight into my dantian, devoid of the searing pain of fire toxins, free from the sluggish sensation of impurities, containing only the purest absolute spiritual power. I normally toil through the night in meditation, yet the energy absorbed from heaven and earth could not compare to the essence provided by this meager powder. It is truly formidable. This unassuming gray gourd can actually absorb moonlight to refine lethal, discarded pills, transforming them into high-quality medicinal elixirs. I clutch the 3 chi condensation pills in my hand, my eyes stinging with suppressed emotion. 3 years. I have been in this spirit herb garden, slaving away like a beast of burden for 3 years, enduring endless scorn and ridicule. Because my spiritual roots are impure, my rate of absorbing spiritual energy is 10 times slower than an ordinary cultivator. With the sex-yearned assessment approaching, if I remain at the first level of chi condensation, I will be cast out of the sect entirely. But things are different now. With these 3 chi condensation pills, all of which are of middle grade or higher, I am absolutely certain that I can break through the bottleneck of the second level of chi condensation in a short period. I took a deep breath, forcing down the overwhelming surge of joy within my heart. The sky had already brightened, so I placed the 3 pills into a small jade vial and tucked it close to my body. I could not enter seclusion immediately. If I did not tend to the green snake grass today, it would immediately attract the attention of the steward. For a disciple at the very bottom to suddenly enter seclusion, it would be far too suspicious. Restraint is my only chance at survival. I donned my usual mud-stained attire, hoisted the water buckets, and pushed open the rotted wooden door of my thatched hut. Oh my Wen Wu, you were up quite early today, aren't you? What is the matter? Have you finally come to your senses? Preparing to do a bit more work for the sect before you are kicked out at the end of the year. Senior Brother Wang, you jest. My natural aptitude is dull, so I must compensate for my lack of talent with diligence. He let out a cold snort, and no longer paying me any mind, turned away to tend to his own spirit herbs. He did not notice that as I lowered my head, the numbness and despair that usually filled my eyes were gone, replaced by a burning ambition. I only need to endure through today. Tonight I shall consume the chi condensation pills to charge toward the second level of chi condensation. The grueling labor of this day felt far more manageable than any other day throughout the past 3 years. Drawing water, weeding, and casting that fundamental spirit jade technique, in the past, performing these menial tasks, only filled my heart with numbness and despair for the future. But today, a fire burned within my chest. I struggled through the day until darkness finally fell. I declined the invitation from several fellow Linglong disciples to bathe at the western riverbank, and practically sprinted back to my dilapidated thatched hut. I barred the door. I blocked the wooden table and set to work immediately. I sat cross-legged upon the rigid wooden bed, forcing myself to take several deep breaths until my heart ceased its violent pounding. Only then, with the utmost caution, did I withdraw the jade vial containing the 3 chi condensation pills from my chest. I pulled the stopper and poured out a single pill, pale green in color. The fragrance of pine and herbs, faint and elusive, once again drifted into my nostrils, sending a jolt through my spirit. Success or failure would be decided here. I would hesitate no longer. I tilted my head back and swallowed the mid-grade chi condensation pill. The moment the medicinal pill touched my tongue, it began to dissolve, requiring no chewing, transforming instantly into a stream of warm spiritual fluid, which slid down my throat and into my stomach. Immediately following this, a dull thud echoed within my mind as if something had exploded. A massive yet uncharacteristically gentle surge of spiritual energy, like a dam bursting, erupted violently from my dantian. Startled, I hurriedly closed my eyes. Surrendering myself to the entry-level technique, the green wood art, provided by the sect, and desperately channeled this surge of spiritual energy. It coursed through my 8 extraordinary meridians. My inferior 5-element pseudo-spirit root usually absorbed heaven and earth ki, which was no more effective than using a sieve to hold sand. Normally, nothing would remain, but the energy provided by this pill was incredibly pure. It required almost no refinement on my part, automatically merging into my meridians. 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles of spiritual energy. Every time I completed a full revolution, my meridians transmitted a pain akin to being torn asunder, yet it was immediately followed by a sense of exhilaration impossible to describe with words. I gritted my teeth, ignoring the sweat that soaked my coarse cloth robes. I do not know how much time had passed, but the roiling spiritual energy within my body finally converged into a single torrent, surging toward the barrier that had hindered me for 3 long years, launching the final assault against that invisible partition. A crack, a crisp sound that only I could hear, echoed out, as if some heavy my meridians, once constricted and withered, expanded to more than twice their original size in the blink of an eye, as a current of spiritual energy, far more potent than before, flowed steadily throughout my body. Having reached the second level of qi refining, I snapped my eyes open, and the dim, dilapidated hut suddenly became remarkably clear to my vision. I could even discern sounds from 30 meters away. The rhythmic chirping of autumn insects in the grass. Feeling an overwhelming surge of strength coursing through me, I clenched my fist, sensing that with a single strike, I could now fell a fierce tiger in the mortal realm. Yet, before I could fully savor the joy of my breakthrough, a peculiar rumbling sound erupted from my abdomen, followed immediately by a nauseating foul odor radiating from my very skin. I looked down, and by the light of the moon, I discovered a layer of sticky black impurities seeping out from my pores. This was the result of a breakthrough. The toxins and acquired impurities of the body were being purged by my physical form. Covering my nose, I rushed to push open the door and sprinted to the well behind the house, drawing 3 full buckets and dousing myself from head to toe with the freezing water. Only then was I able to wash away the filth. The icy water stung my skin, awakening my senses. I raised my head to gaze at the bright moon in the night sky, and the corners of my mouth curled upward in an uncontrollable, fervent smile. At last, I have overcome this hurdle. As long as I have reached the second level of qi refining, the end-of-year sect examination will be something I can pass with ease, and I will no longer have to fear being expelled from the mountain to live as a common mortal. Returning to my room, I looked at the 2 remaining essence pills in the jade bottle, then touched the gray gourd hidden against my body, my gaze gradually growing deep and contemplative. This is merely the beginning. The secret of the gourd must never be revealed, yet I require far more trash pills to nourish it. The 3,000 outer sect disciples of the Qingmu sect conduct their monthly trades at the Qingyun market at the foot of the mountain. Legitimate merchant shops surely do not sell such discarded pills. I must venture to the black market stalls of the rogue cultivators to try my luck. However, I am but a lowly disciple at the very bottom of the hierarchy. If I were to openly go about purchasing discarded pills, it would inevitably invite suspicion from others. In the world of cultivation, such suspicion is enough to cost me my life 100 times over. It seems I must prepare a disguise. I stroked my chin, calculating in my mind. In 5 days, it will be the monthly rest period for the outer disciples of the Qingmu sect. I had no intention of joining the other Linglong disciples who were heading to the West 8 Spirit fish banks to improve their meals. Instead, I bolted my door early. I dug out some black soot from the bottom of the stove, smeared it all over my face and neck, and rummaged through my belongings for a tattered black cotton cloak I used to wear during the previous winters. The cloak was large, featuring an oversized hood, and once draped over my body, it gave my figure a bloated, unsightly appearance, effectively masking my true stature and age from prying eyes. In this world of cultivation, incidents of murder, for the sake of treasures, are far too common. Until I have accumulated enough strength to defend myself, I would rather live like a sewer rat in the darkness. Qingyun Market is situated in a valley 30 miles from the foot of the mountain. Beyond the respectable commercial districts, tucked away in the deepest, most desolate alleys of the market, lies a ghost market that only opens its gates from dusk until midnight. There no one asks about your origin or identity. Trade is conducted entirely based on one's discernment and courage. As dusk fell, I pulled my hood low and followed several rogue cultivators, who were also concealing their identities, blending into the crowd. Inside, there were no radiant moonstones. Only the occasional flicker of eerie azure spirit fire illuminated the sides of the path. The cultivators setting up stalls on either side mostly wore black robes, donning masks. Even their bartering lacked spoken words, relying instead on telepathic transmission or hand signals to finalize a trade. The atmosphere was truly suffocating, making it difficult to breathe. I gripped the jade bottle tightly, my palms slick with cold sweat, and after circling the ghost market 3 full times, I finally came to a halt before a stall tucked away in a corner. The stall owner was a sturdy man wearing a demonic mask, displaying a few tattered artifacts upon a piece of worn cloth, alongside a sealed black earthen jar, with its lid left slightly ajar. From within, a familiar acrid stench wafted out. It was the smell of failed medicinal pills. Judging by the quantity, there must have been at least 20 or 30 of them. I forcibly suppressed the frantic pounding of my heart, my voice using a deep, raspy tone to ask him, "How much for this pile of garbage in the jar?" The heat was not controlled well during the middle stage of qi refining, ruining a furnace of qi-gathering powder. Though they are failed pills, they at least contain traces of spirit herbs. He demanded 2 low-grade spirit stones for it. 2 low-grade spirit stones just to purchase a jar of poison that could kill a man. The stall owner is nothing short of a blatant robber. Yet, far from feeling anger, I felt a secret sense of relief. I do not fear his exorbitant prices. I only fear that he might refuse to sell. Instead of immediately producing the spirit stones, I withdrew the jade bottle containing those 2 mid-grade qi condensation pills from my robes. I poured one into my palm, letting the stall owner catch a fleeting glimpse of it. I then quickly tucked it back into the bottle. I would not pay with spirit stones. This chi condensation pill is in exchange for that jar of failed pills, plus one ordinary magic technique manual. I lowered my voice, feigning impatience. The expression in the stall owner's eyes shifted in an instant. Even a single glance was enough. The pure spiritual energy and the lustrous surface of that elixir could not be faked. In a place like this black market, an elixir of such quality would fetch at least 5 low-grade spirit stones, assuming one could even find such a rare item for sale. The stall owner agreed without a moment's hesitation. He acted as if he were terrified that I might change my mind. He rummaged through his storage bag and tossed me a tattered, thread-bound book. This is a remnant copy of the fireball technique and the breath concealment art. Consider them thrown in. I handed over the elixir with one hand, while sweeping the black earthen jar and the ragged book into my robes with the other. The moment the transaction concluded, I keenly sensed at least 3 pairs of eyes fixed firmly upon my back. I had revealed my wealth, and even a single chi condensation pill was enough to drive destitute rogue cultivators to commit desperate acts. My scalp tingled with immediate dread. Not daring to remain a second longer, I turned headed straight out of the ghost market. Upon exiting the market, I did not dare head directly back to the sect, intentionally choosing the outskirts of the trading square instead. I circled through burial grounds and dense forests with complex terrain. As I walked, I took out the newly acquired breath concealment art. I memorized it, desperately attempting to suppress my breath and the fluctuations of my own spiritual power. Just as I passed through a grove of low trees, a faint muffled groan drifted from up ahead. I immediately dropped flat into the decaying piles of leaves, not daring to even breathe heavily. Peering through the gaps in the bushes, just a few dozen paces away, a young cultivator in tattered robes was clutching his throat, from which blood was spraying. As he collapsed, behind him stood a gaunt figure clad in black, a dagger still dripping with blood held firmly in their hand. I recognized that young cultivator. Earlier, at the entrance of the ghost market, he had spent a small fortune to acquire a superior-grade flying sword, and had even boasted triumphantly to his companions about it. Yet, at this very moment, he had become nothing more than a rapidly cooling corpse. I watched as the black-clad figure skillfully stripped the storage bag from the young cultivator, then poured a vial of corpse-dissolving fluid over the remains, accompanied by a burst of yellow smoke and a stench that stung the nostrils. Within a few breaths, the body dissolved into a pool of thin blood. Not even a fragment of bone remained. The entire process took less than half an incense stick. A living being had been utterly erased from this world. I bit my lip hard, preventing myself from making the slightest sound, while cold sweat trickled from my forehead into my eyes, burning with pain. It was not until long after the dark figure had vanished that I finally dared to crawl up from the ground, my legs heavy, as if weighted with lead, and my stomach churning violently. Is this the true reality of the world of cultivation? There is no warmth or mercy here, only the raw, brutal law of the jungle. If you are not strong enough, or perhaps merely not careful enough, the next person to dissolve into a pool of blood will be yourself. Clutching the black earthen jar tightly to my chest, I relied on the cover of darkness to slink back to the spirit herb garden of the Qingmu sect like a ghost. The experience of this night was more heart-stopping than the entirety of my previous 15 years of life combined. But it was also this night that thoroughly shattered the final remnants of the illusions I had held about this cultivation world. I bolted my door, staring at the jar filled with waste pills on the table, alongside the gray gourd, my gaze filled with unprecedented resolve. I must become strong, I must survive at all costs, and then continue to grow stronger. The next day I returned to my grass hut. At dawn I set out as usual, carrying a heavy wooden bucket to fetch water. Hey Wen Wu, where were you roaming last night? Your eyes are dark, as if someone punched you. You're stumbling all over the place while you walk. That is enough. I was cultivating late last night. I was impatient for a breakthrough, and as a result, I didn't sleep well. I maintained my usual facade, smiling along with him, while secretly and silently operating my internal energy. The breath concealment technique I had memorized the night before. Even though it was said to be only an incomplete manual, it is extremely rudimentary, yet it is more than sufficient to conceal my current cultivation level. It suppresses the spiritual fluctuations of the second level of chi refining within my body with absolute firmness. On the surface, I still appear to be that talentless wretch stuck at the peak of the first level of chi refining, someone who could be cast out by the sect at any given moment. As the proverb goes, the tree that stands above the forest will surely be broken by the wind. Having witnessed the black market with my own eyes, and the brutality of those who would kill for a treasure, I understand more clearly than ever before how vital truly is the preservation of one's own life. By day, I am the most diligent laborer in the Qingmu sect, the most unremarkable disciple at the very bottom of the spiritual farming ranks. I tend to the green serpent grass with meticulous care. When casting the spirit rain technique, I exert even more effort than I did before. I deliberately feign the desperate struggle of one trying to survive the year-end assessment, because only by appearing completely unthreatening by possessing no value whatsoever, can one hope to survive longer in this cruel world of cultivation? Yet, when night falls and the doors to my dilapidated grass hut are bolted shut, this becomes a realm of cultivation that I alone possess. That black earthen jar, which cost me a mid-grade chi condensation pill to acquire, is for me a veritable treasury. Within it lie no fewer than 32 failed waste pills, key-gathering powders, to be precise. Whenever a clear night arrives, I respectfully place that dull, gray gourd where the moonlight shines brightest. Watching as a silver luster emerges upon its surface, greedily inhaling and exhaling the essence of the moon, and thereafter transforming those waste pills, once reeking of acrid, lethal fire toxins, into mid-grade pellets radiating the crisp scent of herbs, or even superior-grade chi-gathering powders, fills my heart with an indescribable sense of peace. In the cultivation world, they say that of the 4 requirements, wealth, companions, technique, and place, wealth is forever ranked first. This gray gourd, capable of turning stones into gold, is my greatest asset to secure my foundation, and gives me the courage to pursue the great Tao of immortality. Now that I have an abundant supply of elixirs, my cultivation has progressed at a speed that even I find terrifying. I am steadily climbing from the early stage to the middle stage of the second level of chi refining, and onwards to the late stage. The meridians that were blocked and hindered me for 3 long years, under the relentless cleansing of this pure medicinal power, have long since become fragile and unable to withstand a single blow. Aside from increasing my cultivation every day, I dedicate all my remaining time and energy to that singular manual of incantations, the fireball technique, the most rudimentary and common of the 5 element spells in the cultivation world. Yet, it is the only offensive measure currently at my disposal that I can employ without drawing unwanted attention from others. Every night, under the cover of darkness, I would sneak to an abandoned mine located at the very edge of the soul-severing forest to practice. When I first began my training, I could barely condense a flame no larger than a soybean on my fingertips, so feeble that it could not even ignite a single dry twig. But I remained undeterred. Possessing only thin, impure spiritual roots and mediocre aptitude, my only path to strength is to stake my very life on relentless effort. If I fail once, I shall practice 10 times. If I fail 10 times, I shall practice 100 times. Whenever the spiritual energy within me was exhausted, I would swallow a refined chi-gathering pill and enter meditation, and once recovered, I would resume my training. Thus it continued, until a deep night 3 months later. A fireball, the size of an adult's fist, its brilliant crimson hue streaked with a glimmer of blue, roared from my palm, dragging a scorching, searing wake of heat as it struck a cliff face 10 jang away. The impact was followed by a muffled, thunderous explosion. Stone and rubble scattered in every direction. Upon that sturdy cliff face I had blasted a deep, jagged crater. The sheer, terrifying heat had even caused the stone around the crater to melt, forming glass-like crystals. I gasped for air, leaning heavily against the cliff wall, staring intently at my own hands, an irrepressible spark of excitement flashing in my eyes. This level of power has undoubtedly surpassed the fireball technique of an average chi refining stage cultivator. If by catching someone off guard, this were to strike a cultivator of the same rank who lacked any defensive measures, even if they survived, they would surely be stripped of a layer of skin. And so month after month, I lived in this monotonous cycle, honest farming by day, and desperate, grueling cultivation by night. As the days slipped by, my cultivation quietly reached the threshold of the 3rd level of chi refining. In the blink of an eye, the heart of winter arrived. Cold winds swirled with snow that blanketed the entire peak of the Qingmu sect, the annual year-end examination for the outer sect, which determines the fate of countless low-level spiritual farmers, had finally arrived. Heavy snow blanketed the mountains, yet the outer sect plaza of the Qingmu sect today marks the triennial grand examination for the outer sect disciples, a moment that will dictate the fate of low-level spiritual farmers like us. It is a day of life and death, where a biting gale howls, carrying shards of ice that sting the face like needles. Yet, colder than the wind itself is the suffocating atmosphere permeating the square. Wang Dian. Chi condensation, 2nd layer. Lingso harvest criteria met. Liergo chi condensation, 1st layer peak, failed to achieve a breakthrough. Status as a disciple revoked, expelled from the mountain immediately. Every time those 4 words, expelled from the mountain, resonate through the air, one is guaranteed to hear a cry of utter despair, followed immediately by the enforcement hall disciples, dragging the unfortunate soul away, as roughly as one would a dead dog. The cruelty of the cultivation world, where the strong devour the weak, is laid bare in this very moment. Next, upon hearing my name, I inhale deeply, vigorously rubbing my hands, which are nearing the point of frostbite, and bow my head as I walk toward the spirit-testing stone. I press my palm against the bone-chilling surface of the stone. Silently, I circulate the concealment technique with all my might, forcing the profound spiritual energy, which has already touched the threshold of the 3rd layer of chi condensation, to remain locked deep within my dantian, releasing only a meager, flickering wisp. Following the flow of my meridians, it surges into the spirit testing stone. The stone instantly flickers with a dull, grayish-white light. Neither too much nor too little, it lands exactly on the threshold required to surpass the second layer of chi condensation. You barely entered the second layer of chi condensation. Spiritual herb quota met. Consider yourself fortunate. Step aside. Hearing these words, I release a long pent-up sigh of relief, quickly feigning the demeanor of one who has narrowly survived a catastrophe. Appearing so grateful I might shed tears, bowing repeatedly to the supervisor, before finally retreating back into the crowd. The brat has a lucky life, managed to strike a stroke of fortune and break through at the very last second. I merely offer a gentle smile, choosing to ignore him, though a cold laugh echoes within my heart. If I were to truly unleash my third-layer chi condensation cultivation, while it might earn me a look of approval from the outer sect supervisor and secure me better treatment, it would inevitably expose my deepest secrets. Once fully uncovered, how could a piece of trash with a 5-element false spiritual root explain such rapid cultivation speed? I only wish to return swiftly to my dilapidated wooden shack and continue clutching my gray gourd. I aim to hide away in peace until the very end of time, but who could have foreseen that the heavens would not grant me my wish? Just as the grand examination concluded, and those of us lucky enough to pass prepared to breathe a sigh of relief and disperse, a piercing, ear-splitting sound tore through the air from high above. An inner sect disciple, standing atop a flying sword, descended with a thunderous thud onto the high platform in the square. By the order of the sect elders, a secret realm has been discovered near the rear mountains, 800 miles away, and it is currently in a state of degradation. The border region of the Misty Valley is flourishing with a vast quantity of cold yin grass, a resource the sect requires with great urgency. All disciples who pass today's examination, along with all outer sect disciples below the third layer of chi refining, are ordered to remain in place and prepare for mandatory conscription to venture into the Misty Valley to harvest herbs. The deadline is set for 10 days. The entire square fell into a deathly silence, only to explode into an uncontrollable uproar a moment later. The Misty Valley? That is a land of supreme peril shrouded year-round in toxic miasma. It is not only filled with poisonous insects and ferocious beasts, but it is also frequently haunted by cultivators from rival sects, or desperate rogue cultivators who emerge there to send ordinary people like us, mere spirit farmers who only know how to till the land, to harvest herbs in such a place is madness. This is clearly using us as fodder and meat shields, and no one is permitted to defy the order. Anyone who dares to disobey will have their cultivation crippled and be executed on the spot. My heart sank abruptly to the depths of the abyss. After calculating every possibility and surviving the eliminations of the examination, I still could not escape the machinations of the sect. In the eyes of the high and mighty elders, our lives are likely worth less than a single stalk of cold yin grass. Yet, I did not feel the slightest panic. Having witnessed the bloody scenes of murder and treasure grabbing in the black market, my nerves have long been tempered to be as resilient as iron wire. I silently retreated to the outermost edge of the crowd, my mind beginning to calculate rapidly. These are the trump cards currently in my possession. My cultivation is at the third layer of chi refining. I possess the fireball technique, which holds power far exceeding that of cultivators at the same level. I also have the breath concealment art used to hide my true strength. While the sect was busy mobilizing the flying ships, I feigned an urgent need to relieve myself and quickly ducked into a secluded corner, swiftly and deftly taking inventory of the assets hidden within my robes. The gray gourd. This is my lifeline which must never leave my side. There are also 3 jade bottles. The first contains 5 refined superior-grade chi condensation pills, which can be used to replenish spirit energy rapidly in critical moments. The second bottle contains 2 hemostatic pills, which I crafted myself by using cheap medicinal herbs, combined with the aid of my gourd. Their efficacy is unexpectedly potent. As for this third vial, it contains only a single pitch-black medicinal pill, emitting a nauseating, foul odor. Do not underestimate it. It was forged during a time when I used my gourd to refine failed elixirs. By sheer coincidence, I created a top-tier poison pill. It did not purge the fire toxins. Instead, it condensed all impurities and poisons to an absolute extreme. I once captured a wild rabbit from the back mountain to test the concoction, and even though it was exposed to only a minuscule amount of powder, that rabbit melted into a pool of foul-smelling blood within the span of 3 breaths. This is the final trump card I have prepared for my survival. After waiting anxiously for half a shichen, a massive wooden flying ship halted directly above the plaza. I, along with several hundred spirit farmers whose faces were ashen as gray embers, were herded onto the vessel. I deliberately sought out the most secluded corner I could find. I sat with my legs crossed, pulled my oversized hood low over my head, closed my eyes, and did everything in my power to minimize my presence. The flying ship shuddered violently before surging into the sky, tearing through the wind toward that unknown land of peril. The bone-chilling wind howled past my ears. I gripped the poison pill, hidden within my sleeve. The gaze hidden beneath the shadow of my hood turned icy cold. You want me dead? It will not be that simple. The flying ship descended with a heavy thud on the outskirts of the fog valley. As the cabin door opened, a pungent, fishy stench surged inward, mingling with the gray, heavy mist. Return here in 10 days with 30 stalks of cold yin grass. Those who fail to gather enough will remain in the valley to serve as fertilizer. As we were driven out, we spirit farmers were treated no differently than a flock of ducks. Stumbling into the thick fog, the moment my feet touched the ground, I cast my breath concealment technique without a second thought. Like a loach, I dove into the waist-high undergrowth, distancing myself from the crowd with all haste. In this godforsaken place where law holds no dominion, the most terrifying things are rarely the venomous insects or demonic beasts. It is the fellow disciples whose eyes burn with the madness of slaughter right beside you. To foolishly remain with the main group is simply to act as fodder and a meat shield for the higher-ranking outer sect disciples. Within this fog valley, visibility is non-existent, and even one's divine sense is suppressed to a radius of a mere 1 or 2 zhang. I stepped with extreme caution upon the decaying leaves. For the first 3 days, I relied on caution greater than anyone else's, successfully evading 2 chi-refining early-stage demonic wolves. Hidden within the damp, dark crevices of the rocks, I successfully harvested 12 stalks of frost yin grass, coated in a layer of frost. At this rate of progress, gathering 30 stalks within 10 days would not be a difficult feat. Yet who could have anticipated that at twilight on the 4th day, an incident would occur nonetheless? At that moment, I was lying flat beside a swampy marsh, fixated on a stalk of frost yin grass of exceptional quality. Just as I prepared to strike, a sound suddenly emanated from behind me, the sound of a snapped branch, incredibly faint. Every hair on my body stood on end, and without a moment's hesitation, not even daring to turn my head, I executed a desperate roll, hurling myself to the side. A cyan blade of wind whistled past my scalp, striking the very spot where I had just been lying. It sliced the frost yin grass in half and carved a deep, jagged trench into the mud. Oh, a mere trash cultivator at the second layer of chi refining, yet your reactions are quite agile. From the mist, 2 figures slowly stepped out. To the left was a bald, burly man, his fingers idly stroking several talismans. To the right was a scarred man, the cyan wind elemental energy still lingering on his fingertips. They were rogue cultivators, yet the scent upon them, the stench of fresh blood, was not concealed in the slightest. Within this valley, the number of people who had perished at their hands was surely not small. I hurriedly swept my gaze across them to discern their cultivation levels. The bald man was at the 3rd layer of chi refining, and the scarred man was at the peak of the 2nd layer. I deliberately allowed my voice to tremble with apparent terror. 2 fellow Taoists, I am merely an outer sect cultivator. Everything I possess, including these few stalks of frost yin grass I just harvested, I will give to you both. Please, spare my lowly life, would you? As I spoke, I trembled visibly, deliberately retreating until I tripped over a piece of dry wood, falling to the ground. Once you are dead, your belongings will be ours regardless. Blame only your own ill fortune. Before his words had even faded, the scarred man raised his hand, and another wind blade shot directly toward my throat. I let out a shrill, desperate shriek, scrambling and dragging myself to evade the wind blade. Yet the residual force still caught my left arm. A deep wound was carved into my flesh, exposing the bone, and fresh blood instantly stained my sleeve a deep crimson red. The pain was so intense it caused me to gasp in cold air, but I dared not stop for even a second, rapidly reaching into my robes. A jade vial containing blood-stanching pills. I swallowed one without hesitation. The wound on my left arm ceased bleeding after only 3 heartbeats. Big brother, be careful. This brat possesses high-grade elixirs. The eyes of the scarred man ignited with a sudden brilliance, his expression betraying a deep, unmistakable greed, and he drew his artifact sword, lunging directly toward me. Upon hearing this, the bald man also quickened his pace. Approaching from both the left and the right, they abandoned all caution, their minds consumed solely by the desire to kill and seize my treasures. In their eyes, a wounded target like me, a useless cheek refinement 2nd layer trash, was nothing more than a fish on a chopping block. I had been waiting precisely for their arrogance. At the very moment the scarred man's blade was about to pierce my heart, the look of terror I had been feigning vanished, replaced instantly by a gaze as cold as stagnant water. I suddenly raised my right hand, eschewing all cultivation techniques, and flicked my finger, launching a pitch-black, foul-smelling pill that seemed to possess a will of its own, firing it straight at the face of the scarred man charging in the lead. What kind of concealed weapon is this? Boom! The moment the poison pill touched his sword, it detonated, instantly transforming into a cloud of deep purple toxic mist. The scarred man recoiled in agony, discarding his sword and clutching his face tightly. Within 2 breaths, his body collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud, dissolving into a pool of foul-smelling black sludge. The second brother, the bald man following behind, widened his eyes until they threatened to burst, forcefully breaking his momentum. His gaze toward me finally shifted from contempt to sheer, unadulterated fear. He was likely wondering what manner of monstrous poison this was. Now it is your turn. I shall hide my strength no longer. The robust spiritual energy of the third layer of chi refinement erupted from me in its entirety, without a shred of restraint. The defensive talisman that the bald man had desperately slapped onto his body, before the fireball I had compressed and refined countless times, was as fragile as paper, torn to shreds in the blink of an eye. Boom. With flames surging toward the heavens, the bald man could not even manage a final scream, as the fireball blasted him into a charred husk, sending him slamming into a tree several yards away, leaving him dead beyond a shadow of a doubt. The valley returned to a deathly silence, save for the faint crackling of burning branches. This was the first time I had truly taken a human life. I had survived. I scanned my surroundings with great vigilance, ensuring that I had not drawn the attention of anyone else, before staggering toward the charred corpse. With practiced movements, I snatched the storage bag from his waist, retrieved the corpse-dissolving fluid from my robes, and disposed of the remains until not a single trace remained. Having finished these tasks, I wiped the cold sweat and mud from my face, and without looking back, plunged headlong into the thickening mist. I needed to put more distance between myself and this place. My lungs felt as though they were about to burst. This spot will do. It is concealed enough that not even a breath of air can escape it. Finally, I have truly survived. The medicinal potency of this supreme-grade hemostatic pill is truly domineering. The old saying that murder and arson lead to great wealth is indeed not without merit. Let me see what I have found. I have struck it rich. Over 70 low-grade spirit stones. A cultivator at the bottom of the hierarchy like me could toil for a lifetime and never accumulate such a sum. This black iron shield is a fine piece of equipment, and there are several protective talismans as well. This flying sword is at the very least a mid-grade magical artifact. Ha! There is even a jade box. Inside lies such an abundance of cold yin grass. 45 stalks in total, plus my own 12, meaning I have long since exceeded the requirements of the mission. It is no wonder so many rogue cultivators abandon a life of peace to walk this treacherous path. 3 years of arduous labor and cultivation cannot compare to the swift gains of killing 2 people in this valley. However, this life of licking blood off the edge of a blade is not a path one can tread too often. How can one walk along the riverbank without eventually getting their shoes wet? Today I was merely fortunate. Had I encountered a seasoned cultivator at the middle stage of chi refining, the one reduced to a puddle of blood would have been me. Spirit stones, talismans, the black iron shield, and the flying 30 stalks of this cold yin grass will be sufficient. Collecting a single stalk more would only invite unnecessary scrutiny. One must remain humble and keep a low profile. I shall remain holed up here for the remaining 6 days. Whatever slaughter may occur outside is of no concern to me. No one shall force me from my sanctuary. I will use these days to stabilize my cultivation and refine this profound iron artifact. This will add yet another layer of protection to my life. There were over 500 people when we arrived, and now fewer than 300 remain. No one cares to track who has gone missing. In the world of cultivation, human life is truly the most inexpensive consumable resource. Due to the mission, I am quite adept at playing the fool and acting the part of the submissive grandson. This overseer, no matter how hard he racks his brain, will never understand. How could a piece of trash like me collect enough mission items to survive and return? The next person only has 3 measly stones, yet he is already trying to drive them away. Does he take me for a beggar? I could not care less. I currently have over 100 spirit stones in my storage pouch, along with 2 magical artifacts and of course my greatest asset, that mysterious gourd. Fortunately, this trip to the Mist Valley has truly helped me accumulate sufficient capital. Once I return to that dilapidated thatched cottage, I can finally go into seclusion with peace of mind. With such an abundance of waste pills and spirit stones to sustain me, reaching the middle stage of chi refining is a certainty. Finally, I have returned to this drafty, miserable hovel. Leaning against this earthen wall, after my nerves were frayed for 10 days in the Mist Valley, I can only now fully relax, despite the pervasive scent of mold in this shack. Smelling it now brings more peace to my heart than any immortal elixir could. Yet, one must remain cautious where caution is due. Even within the safety of my own den, I must never allow my vigilance to waver. The profound iron shield must be kept within arm's reach. In the following days, I returned to being a lethargic outer sect disciple, obediently hauling water and tending to the crops every day. Fatty Knives was boasting that the death toll in the Mist Valley this time was immense. Everyone is preoccupied with dividing the spoils, and no one is bothering to cast a glance at a transparent, useless nobody like me. As for the 100 low-grade spirit stones, I have hidden them all beneath my bed, not daring to touch even a single one. For a penniless wretch to suddenly appear at the marketplace and spend recklessly is nothing short of courting death. One must be alive to enjoy their wealth. My primary objective now is to improve my cultivation, for that vial of medicinal pills has become the very foundation of my survival. These superior-grade qi gathering pills, which others would bleed and break heads over just to obtain, I treat as nothing more than simple confectionaries. Achieving a breakthrough to the 4th level of qi refining is a natural progression, as inevitable as a river reaching the sea. It has been merely 3 months since my return, and having consumed 2 qi gathering pills, the bottleneck has been shattered. I have successfully reached the 4th level of qi refining. My 5 senses have sharpened significantly. My divine sense can now sweep across a radius of 10 zhang. From 10 zhang away, even this stray cat shivering in the rain is visible to me with perfect clarity. Finally, I have ascended from the mud of the mid-stage qi refining realm. Yet this is still far from enough. I must continue to cultivate. For this year, I have not stepped outside my gates nor observed the world. Lacking profound cultivation techniques, I am forced to resort to the most arduous method, battling that flying sword, striking and thrusting. If I fail once, I shall practice 10,000 times. By the second winter, my supply of medicinal pills had been completely exhausted. This is the final moment. Gasps and shock rise. 5th level of qi refining. This surge of spiritual energy is overwhelming. I have no choice but to resist with all my might. Let the great heavenly cycle circulate. Breakthrough for me. 5th level of qi refining. With this newfound power, bolstered by my flying sword and fireball technique, should I cross paths with that scarred gang once more, I am certain I could cut them down within 10 breaths. Gasps in shock. The 5 inner peaks. 30 years ago, I could not even afford a single low-grade medicinal pill. Now I finally possess enough resources to carve out a future. Hiding away in the spirit herb garden will never lead to greatness. Common medicinal pills have lost their efficacy. I must find a way to obtain something more potent, perhaps even begin preparations for foundation establishment. No matter how perilous the world outside may be, I, Wen Wu, shall strive to seize my own path toward eternal life. 4 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Looking back 4 years ago, I was still stuck at the 1st level of qi refining, a useless wretch who could have been cast out at any moment. With a 5-element pseudo-spirit root and no background, I was exhausted every day just trying to harvest my meager quota of spirit snake grass. That was until I reached the soul-severing ridge, where I took the risk of looting those 2 corpses and obtained the gourd capable of absorbing moonlight, turning my pathetic trash into a precious treasure. Relying on this secret, I cautiously and stealthily visited the black market to trade for discarded medicinal pills. Within the Mist Valley, I even managed to turn the tables on 2 would-be robbers, thereby earning my first pot of gold. By leveraging those spirit stones and magical artifacts, along with an endless supply of high-grade qi-gathering powder, I managed to endure the hardships in this dilapidated thatched cottage and surged directly to the 5th level of qi refining. The 5th level of qi refining may be worth nothing in the eyes of the gifted geniuses of the major sects, but in this territory housing 3,000 outer sect disciples, it is enough to walk with my head held high. Yet, I am well aware that I can no longer remain in this medicinal herb garden. The gourd has run out of resources. Having reached the middle stage of qi refining, the qi-gathering powder no longer produces even a ripple in my cultivation. I need to acquire higher-grade discarded pills, such as the refuse from foundation establishment elixirs, for instance. The low-level black market at the foot of the mountain simply does not have what I require. If I continue to stay here, not only will my cultivation stagnate, but as a bottom-tier outer disciple who has not aged in years, I will eventually invite the unwanted attention of the law enforcement hall. I must leave. It just so happens that the sect's quinquennial outer affairs rotation is approaching. Feiyun City, located 3,000 miles away, is a hub for rogue cultivators and bustling trade. Surely it will not lack discarded pills. The sect's Qingmu Pavilion is currently seeking an assistant, with the requirement being the 4th level of qi refining or higher. My cultivation is just enough to have crossed the threshold of the 4th level, and with a discreet bribe of 3 spirit stones, the matter is effectively settled. I shall depart at dawn tomorrow. The secret cellar has been leveled, and the clay jars have been crushed and buried. My entire fortune and my life have been properly arranged. Senior Brother Wang, are you busy? He has already achieved a breakthrough to the 4th level of qi refining, and has even been dispatched to Feiyun City to enjoy a life of comfort. Yet it is hardly a life of comfort. He is merely being sent to the market to serve tea and pour water for others. There are countless rogue cultivators outside. Who knows when one might lose their head? Staying within the sect to tend the fields is far safer. It seems you possess a modicum of self-awareness, boy. That place, Feiyun City, is a realm where the strong devour the weak. A sullen fellow like you must learn to be quick-witted once you arrive, lest you meet your end without ever knowing how it happened. This half-acre of green snake grass now belongs to me. Be off with you, and do not delay my work. Then I offer my gratitude to Senior Brother Wang for your guidance all this time. Oh, fatty, after this journey, the distance between us will be as vast as that between mortals and immortals. You crave the security offered by those 2 spirit stones of yours. but the path I seek to tread, though it may lead to my body being shattered and my bones ground to dust at any moment, is the great Tao that ascends to the heavens, leading toward eternal life. Half a month has passed. I have finally arrived. Good heavens. Having spent 7 years in the Qingmu sect, I thought I had seen the world, but compared to Feiyun City, this place is truly magnificent. The figures soaring through the skies are all great masters and young masters of noble clans. Those of us at the Qi refining stage can only obediently queue at the main gate. The entry fee is 1 low-grade spirit stone for a temporary residency permit. It is valid for 1 month. Those who overstay their welcome will be executed on the spot by the city guard. Begone, a low-grade spirit stone that would take half a month of grueling labor to earn in the sect, only secures a 1-month permit here. This is not cultivation. This is a spirit stone devouring machine. It is truly a bottomless pit of expenditure. It is certainly prosperous. Magical artifacts, medicinal pills, and talismans. Everything is available. If one has enough spirit stones, even spiritual fruits that extend one's lifespan can likely be purchased. I must remain low profile and keep a tight grip on my purse. The Qingmu Pavilion should be located in the eastern outer district. Compared to the grand merchant shops on the main thoroughfare, this Qingmu Pavilion belonging to our sect is truly modest. What are you doing? We are not accepting green snake grass today. Please return early tomorrow. Esteemed senior, I am Wen Wu, newly dispatched by the sect as a handyman, here specifically to report to Steward Liu, 8th level of Qi refining. Although his blood essence is fading, his strength is not to be underestimated. I am Steward Liu. Since the sect has sent you, come inside. You should understand the rules by now. Room and board are provided, along with a base salary of 3 low-grade spirit stones each month. Your duties are to sort and prepare spiritual herbs for the storehouse. Be swift and careful, for if you damage their medicinal properties, your pay will be deducted. Understood, Manager Liu. This disciple will certainly serve with his utmost dedication. Anu led him to the backyard to claim a bed, teaching him the ropes. Having reached the 3rd level of Qi refining, the boy was quite sharp. Brother Wen, you should sleep in the innermost bunk. The conditions are modest, but in Feiyun City, finding a place to stay for free is a blessing in itself. Manager Liu has a volatile temper, so you must be diligent. However, this job grants you access to a vast array of herbs. Occasionally, you may even come across a hidden treasure that others have overlooked. A heaven-sent disguise. Sorting through this pile of weeds every day, I can effortlessly master the knowledge of all elixirs kept here. This chore of a servant's job is truly grueling, but it is the perfect cover to conceal my true self. There are countless alchemists in Feiyun City today, and many rogue cultivators dream of striking it rich through alchemy within a year. Wherever there is alchemy, there are bound to be failed elixirs. The output here is far greater than that of the Qingmu sect. Brother Anu, today when I went to dispose of the herb dregs, why did I see people in the street selling those blackened burnt pills? Are those even fit for consumption? Beyond the western outskirts of the city lies the stinking medicine alley. It is inhabited by impoverished rogue cultivators who dream of becoming alchemists. They refuse to discard the failed elixirs they brewed, despite having bellies full of them, so they take them out to swindle those who are new to the city. Consuming such things is no different from courting death. The stinking medicine alley, a garbage dump in the eyes of others. But for me, Wen Wu is a treasure trove waiting to be unearthed. I have finally found a lead on the failed elixirs for the Yunling pill. My days as a servant at the Qingmu Pavilion are undeniably monotonous, yet my heart is remarkably content. After enduring half a month of drudgery, I have finally waited for my first day off. A change in appearance is essential. This is what one might call a fundamental procedure. I suppressed my breath concealment technique from the 5th level down to the 3rd. In a place like Feiyun City, where cultivators are as common as the dust on the road, being an impoverished 3rd level Qi refining practitioner is the best way to remain inconspicuous. No one in their right mind would bother casting a second glance at me. Good heavens, the stench of burnt medicine and strange odors is overwhelming. This must be the stinking medicine alley. Look at these people, their eyes burning with jealousy. They struggle and toil, dreaming of becoming great alchemists. Yet reality crushes them time and again, leaving them broken and bloodied. Come and take a look. These are the scrap pills from a genuine Qi gathering powder. Although a bit burnt, they still retain 20% of their medicinal potency. Selling them individually would be quite profitable. Massive clearance on damaged pill furnaces. For only 10 low-grade spirit stones, you can have these Qi gathering scrap pills. I have no interest in such cheap trash. What I am looking for is the Yunling pill used for the middle stage of Qi refining. This pill is extremely difficult to refine, making even the scrap version a rare find. After wandering for 2 full hours, I have finally found it. Even if it is scorched into charcoal, I can still recognize this distinct jade-like scent. There is absolutely no mistake. Regarding the Yunling scrap pill, I must remain calm and not reveal my hand. Old man, how much for this bronze scrap? These are Yunling scrap pills. The furnace exploded just yesterday. Though ruined, the fire toxin and medicinal potency within are still very potent. They are best used to extract venom to feed insect goo. I will not sell them individually. You must take this broken furnace along with them. 5 low-grade spirit stones. Low-grade spirit stones? Has this old man gone insane from poverty? In this dilapidated alley, 5 spirit stones could buy dozens of pounds of low-level scrap pills. And yet, you are forcing me to buy this piece of scrap metal as well. Besides, with 5 spirit stones I could go to a proper pharmacy and buy the lowest quality authentic pill. Keep your precious furnace and practice with it yourself. Wait, 3 stones. 3 low-grade spirit stones for the lot. This old man can no longer even afford to buy medicinal herbs for my wounds. If I do not treat these injuries, these old bones of mine will surely perish here. Consider it my misfortune. It just so happens that the black-bellied toad I am raising needs some potent medicine. Time to move and retreat. I must circle around a few more times. I absolutely cannot let anyone track me. Sniffs. Finally, I have waited until nightfall for these 3 low-grade spirit stones, simply because, within the Qingmu sect, one would have to toil and suffer for a month and a half just to earn these 3 stones. But after tonight, once my gray tiger skin cauldron has absorbed enough moonlight, this pile of black, useless dregs will all transform into invaluable supreme-grade spirit convergence pills. A single high-grade spirit convergence pill in any reputable shop would sell for at least 20 low-grade spirit stones. Most importantly, possessing this batch of pills, my cultivation, currently stagnant at the early stage of the 5th level of qi refining, will finally be able to advance. Let the hour of the rat come quickly. I implore the heavens, let the hour of the rat arrive. Sniff, Simps, it is the hour of the rat. Those people are fast asleep, snoring enough to shake the very earth. It is perfectly convenient for me to begin. I have arrived at this dilapidated woodshed in the backyard. Half the roof has collapsed, allowing the moonlight to spill through perfectly. The scent of medicinal dregs here is pungent enough to mask any spiritual fluctuations as the pills take form. Conceal them. Old friend, I am counting on you. I poured in all 10 or more of those black-purple dreg pills. Absorb it, open yourself up and absorb it all. This scene of 1,000 strands of moonlight being drawn in. No matter how many times I witness it, my heart still trembles. Since I have some spare time, I might as well examine this broken cauldron I bought as an accessory. It is truly heavy, weighing at least 20 or 30 caddies. What kind of metal is this? There is a significant crack running across its belly. Even a fissure thinner than a strand of hair would cause an explosion during refinement. This is nothing more than a piece of scrap metal. That old blind man was so destitute, yet he carried it with him everywhere. His attachment to it was truly profound. Wait, this base is far too thick. For standard beginner-grade pill refinement, the base should be very thin to ensure even heat distribution. The base of this shattered scrap accounts for nearly 1/3 of its weight. That is not right. I shall channel my spiritual power along the crack to investigate further. I sense a form of resistance, not the simple obstruction of a magnet, but a lingering, elastic barrier. There is a hidden compartment inside. I must draw my flying sword. I must absolutely avoid creating any disturbance. I cannot channel sword chi. I will have to use it like a common blade instead. Slowly working along the edge of the fissure, click, it has opened. The base of this object is indeed a lid. Within this small square secret compartment lies a remnant fragment of a demonic beast shell. The edges are jagged and torn, and written upon it in dark red ink are tiny intricate characters. Fire control art? What is this? This is a specialized technique for manipulating flames. A remnant manual teaching one how to refine violent fire attribute spiritual power into something as supple and controlled as silk. Although this is a technique meant for alchemists, the fireball spell is currently my only trump card. This acquisition is for me akin to a tiger gaining wings. If I can master this, the time required to condense my fireballs will be significantly reduced. I will also be able to alter their form. The lethality will undoubtedly reach a much higher level. 3 low-grade spirit stones. I have truly stumbled upon a fortune. That blind old man sat upon a mountain of treasure and treated it as nothing but refuse. The benefit has fallen entirely to me. The glow is fading. The refinement process has concluded. I shall store away the leftover husk before opening the lid. The acrid smell has dissipated. This medicinal fragrance is so dense it refuses to disperse. Just by inhaling a single breath, the spiritual power that was stagnant at the early stage of the 5th level of qi refining has begun to stir. Clatter, clatter. 12 pills, round and full. Their light blue color resembles the finest sapphires. Grade spirit gathering pills. I am rich. If I were to sell these at a standard shop, they would be worth at least 200 low-grade spirit stones. But I would have to be insane to sell them. These are divine elixirs meant for breaking through the bottleneck of the middle stage of qi refining. In Feiyun City, one cannot purchase such high-grade, impurity-free goods even with all the wealth in the world. I must quickly store them in a white jade bottle and seal it tightly. Not a single trace of this medicinal fragrance must leak outside. With this batch of spirit luck pills now in my possession, in this treacherous Feiyun city, where danger lurks at every turn, I finally have a glimmer of confidence. Reaching the 6th level of chi refining is now only a matter of time. As for this battered, dilapidated cauldron, it is time to patch it up and discard it in the trash heap. I lie back down upon this rigid, unyielding bed. I listen closely to the breathing of the others nearby. I must calculate my next plan with the utmost precision. Having secured those pills and cultivation manuals, my days in Feiyun City have become a simple path between 2 points. By day, I remain the honest, simple-minded servant. And preparing medicines, I handle it all. Even that stingy old man, Elder Liu, has made an exception and praised my diligence. But come nightfall, this wretched, crumbling woodshed becomes my secret sanctuary for cultivation. High-grade elixirs are truly formidable. The medicinal potency is 10 times stronger than before, and the spiritual energy surges through my meridians like wildfire. If not for the concealment formation, the Immortal Academy would have surely discovered me by now. I endured in silence for 3 months, consuming all 8 pills. My body, once like an old ox pulling a broken cart, has finally undergone a transformation. With the 6th level of chi refining in the outer reaches of Feiyun City, I can reluctantly be considered a master. What pleases me even more is this fire control art. It does not teach how to enlarge a fireball, but rather how to compress flame into a piercing line of fire. Its volume is small, its speed is immense, and it makes not a single sound. It is in truth a divine technique for ambushes and assassinations. I had intended to work by day to deceive the world, and cultivate in secret by night, steadily reaching the late stages of chi refining in peace. Regrettably, a wretched place like Feiyun City offers no such peace. Oh my. So it is Hall Master Zhao, of the Black Wolf Gang, who has graced us with his presence. To what do I owe the honor? We have always submitted the monthly interest payments on time. Old Man Liu, stop beating around the bush. Your Qingmu sect may mean something in the southern region, but here in Feiyun City, you are worth less than a fart. Starting today, this street falls under our jurisdiction. The interest rate has tripled, and all spirit herbs purchased in this shop must be sold to us. This is impossible. 1/3 of the market price. Are you not just committing daylight robbery? We have a sect backing us. Do not push your luck too far. A sect backing you, you say? Leclact v. Plukes. The manager has reached the peak of the 8th level of chi refining. For those 4 loiterers to attack him recklessly is nothing short of courting death. I could only hold my breath and remain as still as a stone. If they all swarmed him, Qingmu Pavilion would be razed to the ground today. Old man, I offered you respect, yet you refused to accept it. I will give you exactly 3 days. Either you surrender the land deed and the spirit herbs and clear out, or you can prepare yourselves to become fertilizer for the flowers outside the city walls. It seems this peaceful sanctuary of Qingmu Pavilion can no longer be my home. With a 3-day deadline, the sect is not a reliable source of aid. If I stay, I will either be slaughtered or turned into a slave. It seems I must prepare to flee. If I must leave, I refuse to leave empty-handed. Old Man Liu has exploited me for far too long. I will gladly accept the finest goods from the storage vault. The rain in Feiyun City is falling harder by the moment, as if attempting to wash away all the filth in the outer city. That palm strike from Old Man severely damaged my heart meridians. Even if I manage to survive, my cultivation for this lifetime is utterly crippled. Brother Ann, what are you doing? Brother Wen, we truly cannot stay in this place any longer. The Black Wolf Gang kills without a second thought. When they return to seize the shop, we will certainly be dragged away to serve as test subjects for their elixirs. I am taking advantage of the darkness to climb the wall and return to my hometown to farm. I am finished with this path of cultivation. Travel carefully and do not pass through the city gates. Seek out the merchant caravans that smuggle mortal goods and sneak out with them. Take care, my brother. And Yao may be able to return to the mortal realm, but I can never go back. Having once witnessed the landscape of eternal life, who would still be content to return to the life of a mere mortal? In any case, this shop can no longer be held. Those fine goods in the storage vault were meant to be transported to the sect. Rather than leaving them for those bandits, I might as well use them to further my own path toward immortality. The basic alarm formation on the door is nothing more than a decoration against my high-temperature fire needles. I have struck it rich. There are over 300 low-grade spirit stones here. There is also the century-old red essence herb. Even if the old man risked his life, he would not concede it. This old fellow had been hoarding such a wealth of treasures, hiding them from his own sect. The front entrance certainly has eyes watching. Taking the back alley will be much safer. Old Fourth, look there. I told you that this dilapidated shop definitely had rats hiding inside. Thinking of fishing in troubled waters to slip away? Boy, toss that storage bag over here. I might just show mercy and leave your corpse intact. Times have changed. I am too lazy for idle chatter. This must be a swift victory. What in the world is this? Old Fourth, Mother of God, that laughter. Do you think you can escape? A chi refining stage 6 cultivator attacking a mid-stage cultivator. As long as the advantage is seized early, it is nothing more than a one-sided slaughter. From this moment forth, I am no longer the lowly Linglong sect disciple, nor am I a mere servant of the Qingmu Pavilion. I am but a rogue cultivator in Feiyun City, unbound and unburdened, fighting solely for the pursuit of eternal life. The torrential rain in Feiyun City poured down for 3 days and 3 nights straight. These past few days, the outer city has truly descended into utter chaos. It is said that the big shots of the Qingmu sect in the inner city have gone mad, directly razing a stronghold of the Black Wolf Gang to the ground. However, none of these matters have even half a cent to do with me anymore. I am currently hiding quite securely in the southern district of the outer city. People from all walks of life gather here. It is truly the perfect quagmire in which to remain hidden. That night, after disposing of the corpses, I had to soak in a foul-smelling sewer ditch for a full half-hour, scrubbing away every trace of spiritual energy, lingering sense and evidence from my body. I then acquired some medicinal powders and applied a fake scar, disguising myself as a weathered, middle-aged rogue cultivator. It cost me 50 low-grade spirit stones. I rented this courtyard for 3 years from a greedy old man to ensure I would be prepared for any eventuality. Under the wall, I buried a warning talisman purchased at a high price. If anyone dares to scale the wall, I will know immediately. After struggling until now, I finally have the time to tally the spoils from that night. The storage of Qingmu Pavilion held exactly 320 pieces. Add that to the loot from those 2 unlucky fellows, and the 480 low-grade spirit stones I had saved up myself. That is not even counting the 2 mid-grade flying swords, the shield, and the stack of talismans. Oh, that is right, there is still this treasure. The century-old red essence herb. Ha. And die for wealth, just as birds die for bait. If that old miser knew that all the spirit stones he embezzled now belonged to me, he would likely be so enraged that he would crawl back up from the underworld. I certainly have the wealth, but I dare not flaunt it. In the world of cultivation, showing off one's riches without a powerful background is simply inviting an early death. Only when wealth is converted into true strength can it be considered safe. 2 months, I remained in seclusion, never stepping a foot outside. By day, I buried myself in the fire control manual to hone my armor-piercing fireline, and by night, I used the gourd to refine scrap pills, focusing entirely on breaking through the bottleneck of the 7th layer of qi refining. Yet this path of cultivation truly becomes more arduous with every step forward. Advancing from the 6th layer to the 7th, that is the boundary between the middle stage and the late stage. It requires spiritual energy. A simple qualitative change is no longer sufficient. Even though this high-grade spirit-gathering pill is pure, it still lacks the necessary explosive power. To achieve a breakthrough, I must obtain a specialized breakthrough pill, or a foundation-building pill, meant for late-stage cultivators. However, such high-quality goods can never be scavenged from the trash of a ruined medicine garden. The tavern is forever the place where news travels the fastest in this city. Hey, have you heard the latest? The Grand Triennial Black Market Auction will be held at the Huang Pavilion in the inner city on the 5th of next month. Pa, what does that have to do with us? That is a venue for the great merchant houses and powerful clans to feast. I heard that this time they even have a batch of defected Foundation establishment pills. Wretches like us cannot even reach the minimum asset threshold required for entry. You don't understand. Outside of the private auction, there is a free trade fair that lasts for 3 consecutive days. At that time, influential figures from other cities will arrive, faces concealed, to set up stalls, and one can find high-quality items there. Even goods that can be shown in the open black market. As long as you have spirit stones, there is nothing you cannot buy. The black market auction, and the free trade fair outside. Formal shops may not have the medicinal pills I need, but this chaotic black market is truly a paradise for offloading stolen goods and acquiring unorthodox items. Everyone will be concealing their identities. Isn't this exactly the opportunity tailored for me? There are still 20 days to achieve a breakthrough to the late stage and to pursue immortality. This time I, Wen Wu, have no other choice. I must venture into that bone-chilling abyss of darkness to carve out my own destiny. 20 days have passed in the blink of an eye, and tonight, as darkness descends, I have prepared everything. I used a disguise powder to completely alter the bone structure of my sallow, gaunt face, and spent 10 low-grade spirit stones on the outskirts of the market to purchase a concealment cloak capable of blocking the divine sense of any qi condensation stage cultivator, along with this brass mask. The cloak feels heavy upon my shoulders, yet it perfectly obscures the fluctuations of my 6th layer qi condensation cultivation base. In the black market, protecting one's identity is more important than anything else. At this moment, in the basement of the Anxiang Pavilion within Feiyun City, who could have guessed that the entrance would be hidden beneath a dry well in a brothel, guarded by 2 men in black armor who exude the terrifying aura of the 9th layer of qi condensation. Do you know the rules? The entry fee is 100 low-grade spirit stones, or a treasure of equivalent value. This threshold of 100 low-grade spirit stones is enough to bar 99% of the rogue cultivators at the bottom of Feiyun City from entering. Enter. The outer exchange session will last for 3 days. Fighting is prohibited, as is forced buying or selling. Any who dare to violate these rules shall be executed. The world behind this door is in stark contrast to the boisterous red light district outside. Several hundred white jade platforms are arranged in neat rows. There is no shouting of wares, nor is there any clamor. Everyone speaks in the faintest of whispers, or communicates through divine sense. Sigh. The atmosphere is stifling, yet it reeks of such immense wealth that it is enough to drive a person mad. This place is undoubtedly a playground for high-level cultivators. That high-grade flying sword is priced at 800 low-grade spirit stones, and there are even rare life-extending spiritual fruits, alongside strange artifacts that reek of a thick, pungent scent of blood. I suppressed my astonishment, focusing my search on stalls displaying medicinal pills. Do you have any pill dregs from the essence nourishing pill? You have a keen eye. I happen to have one bottle here. These are the failed batches produced by a great alchemist during the refinement of essence nourishing pills. Although they are steeped in fire poison, they were still forged from century-old green herbs, and the medicinal potency remains extremely potent. One bottle contains 8 pills, 50 low-grade spirit stones, no bargaining allowed. The price is nothing short of robbery, yet deep down I am on the verge of madness with joy. The Foundation Strengthening Pill is an exceptional elixir for breaking through bottlenecks during the late stages of qi refining. I will take it. The transaction proceeded smoothly, and half the weight upon my heart was finally lifted. I prepared to browse the market one last time. If nothing else caught my eye, I would depart immediately. Just then, a scorching, faint, yet unmistakable heat emanated through my inner garments. It had been 4 years since I first obtained this gray gourd. Aside from refining elixirs beneath the moonlight, it had never once reacted to anything in the outside world. Not even the slightest tremor. The stall owner was a burly man, and the goods laid out before him were nothing but junk. A rusted, broken bronze sword, the partially weathered remains of a demonic beast, and nameless black stones. Each time my gaze swept over an item, I felt the temperature of the gourd against my chest shift. Finally, my eyes locked onto a withered, yellow piece of wood no larger than half a palm. It resembled a dried-out vine or a shard of dead wood, devoid of even the slightest ripple of spiritual energy, as if it had been casually tossed out from a pile of firewood. Yet, as I stared at it, the scorching heat of the gourd in my chest reached its peak in an instant. Owner, how much for this pile of scrap? These were unearthed from the outer ruins of an ancient cultivator's cavern. Although their spiritual essence has long since faded, the materials are unique. Choose any item you wish. 30 low-grade spirit stones. Why don't you just rob me instead? These are abandoned trinkets, lacking even a shred of spiritual energy. Yet you dare ask for 30 stones. I will pay 10 spirit stones at most. I'm merely buying them to study the materials for artifact refining. A 10 is too little. 20 low-grade spirit stones. Take these 3 items and we have a deal. The gourd against my chest remained feverishly warm, as if it were a famished beast, gripped by an insatiable, restless craving. I did not know what this piece of wood truly was, but I knew that my gray gourd was perhaps about to undergo a profound transformation. Leaving the Anqing Pavilion, I did not dare return directly to Liushu Alley. Through the labyrinthine sewers and the abandoned slums of the mortals, I spent 3 full hours winding my way back, masking my trail. During that time, I changed my disguise 3 times completely. I even deliberately lingered in the backyard of a rogue cultivator's refining room for a full half-hour. I ensured that not even a fly was trailing me. Only then did I scale the wall back to my small courtyard before dawn. The mendate clothes left at the foot of the wall remained untouched, bearing no signs of disturbance. I locked the door and activated the isolation array. I leaned against the door, feeling as if every ounce of energy had been drained from my body. The oppressive atmosphere of the dark path was truly more stifling than facing the demonic beasts in the mist-veiled valley. Yet, as I reached into my robes, the gray gourd was still radiating heat against my chest. All exhaustion was swept away in an instant. I carelessly tossed the rusted, broken sword and that black stone to the side. My gaze remained fixed on the palm-sized wooden shard, which was covered in withered, yellow web-like patterns. I withdrew the gray gourd and slowly brought it closer to the shard. The closer they drew, the higher the temperature of the gourd's surface became. When the two were less than an inch apart, an incredible phenomenon occurred. There was no surge of spiritual energy, nor any blinding radiance. That withered, dried piece of wood seemed to possess a life of its own. It transformed into a pool of viscous yellowish liquid, which then trickled along the rough shell of the gray gourd, soaking into it drop by drop. Within these few short breaths, the wood vanished entirely, having completely merged into the gourd. On its surface, a faint mark appeared. It was a withered yellow vine pattern. What was once a cold, stony gray surface now emanated a subtle, lingering warmth. It felt as if it possessed a faint pulse of life. Anything that could compel the gourd to actively consume it must undoubtedly be an ancient divine artifact that shared the same origin as that wooden shard. It was likely the remains of some ancient spiritual vine. As long as it evolves, it will surely be an earth-shattering event. Now it is time to verify the second batch of spoils. I poured out the container of defective pills, for which I had spent 50 low-grade spirit stones. With several hours remaining until dusk, I closed my eyes to meditate, adjusting the spiritual energy within my body to its peak state. As night fell, I placed the gray gourd before the window where the moonlight was brightest and pulled out the stopper. The newly emerged vine pattern suddenly flared with light. Its previous rate of absorbing moonlight had been a slow, steady trickle, but now it flowed so quickly. It has been no more than the time takes for an incense stick to burn. Previously, refining a batch of trash-tier spirit pills would have taken at least an entire night. Yet now it has been condensed into a mere moment. Is this the transformation brought about by consuming that piece of withered wood? 8 medicinal pills devoid of a single impurity lay silent. They even radiated a faint silver halo. They were truly peerless foundation nurturing pills. Even the direct disciples of great cultivation families are not necessarily provided with such top-tier elixirs when attempting a breakthrough. Success or failure hinges on this single move. Boom! The moment the pill entered my stomach, a surge of power, violent and unprecedented, erupted. A vast, pure sea of spiritual energy suddenly exploded within my dantian, pulsing with immense force. Even with mental preparations made, the sheer potency of this top-tier foundation nurturing pill still exceeded the limits of what my meridians could endure. The excruciating pain of being torn apart left me trembling. Tiny droplets of blood instantly began to seep from the surface of my skin. Breakthrough for me. Risking the peril of shattering my meridians, I did not hesitate to circulate the incomplete fire control technique, using it as a furnace fire. Through the fire control technique, I forcibly compressed and guided the energy, transforming it into a torrent of spiritual power, refining it once, twice, 3 times. I do not know how many times I launched the assault. My consciousness even began to blur. Thick black blood leaked from every orifice. Just at the moment when I could no longer hold on, that barrier finally collapsed under the combined pressure. My meridians, once narrow, expanded 3 times over in the blink of an eye. As the spiritual energy within my dantian spun madly, the gaseous spiritual energy actually began to condense into a few droplets of liquid. 7th level of chi refining, the late stage of chi refining. I could feel a terrifying vast sea of spiritual energy within my body. If I were to encounter that 8th level chi refining hall master Zhao from the Qingmu Pavilion again, even without resorting to a sneak attack, I would dare to face him head on. I would undoubtedly be able to strike him down beneath my blade. More than 4 years of endurance, more than 4 years of living in the shadows. From a mortal with faint spiritual roots, ready to be discarded at any moment, I have now set foot into the late stage of chi refining. At long last, I have truly stepped into the ranks of the mid-tier combatants of Feiyun City. The late stage of chi refining is achieved, but the path to immortality has only just begun. Within my storage bag still lies a 100-year-old scarlet gold branch, a treasure of inestimable value. It is time to plan how to safely convert this hot potato into resources for the foundation establishment stage. After the breakthrough, it took me exactly 7 days to fully tame this violent surge of spiritual energy. The spiritual energy has condensed at my core. The sheer power contained within these 3 drops of liquid is equivalent to 10 of my previous fireball techniques. Its penetrating power is truly terrifying, and my spellcasting speed has doubled as well. The wounds it inflicts are even fused into glass-like crystals. Facing that Zhao sect leader now, I could force him to his death with a single direct strike. But I must remain calm. To charge toward the 8th, 9th, and eventually the foundation establishment stage, I still require a massive quantity of spirit stones and top-tier cultivation manuals. The spiritual aura of these herbs is far too pure. The temperature in the room is rising as a result. This 100-year-old red spirit herb, a key ingredient for foundation establishment elixirs, holds a fatal attraction for those old monsters trapped at the peak of their current stage. This item is far too dangerous. If I dared to set up a street stall in the outer ring, the rogue cultivators would surely tear me apart out of sheer greed. It might even attract a foundation establishment expert. My only option is to go through legitimate channels. The reputation of the grand auction at Huanglao is ironclad. As long as the commission is paid, they will even protect the seller. This time, I deliberately leaked a trace of fire poison aura, the persona of a powerful, hot-tempered old monster. This is my new identity. Displaying Feiswangxin Finker is far more effective than acting subserviently. The 100 spirit stones for the entrance fee were well spent. The appraisal chamber here is capable of isolating any divine sense probe from a cultivator at the peak of the 9th level of chi refining. This appraiser is no simple man. You are a stranger, fellow Taoist. Have you come to the appraisal chamber to consign some rare item? See for yourself. Astonished, this is a red gold herb. Judging by its age and luster, it must be at least 200 years old. 200 years, you say? Manager Liu, that old fox deceived me after all. This is clearly a supreme grade specimen. It seems you possess at least some discerning vision. Does this item qualify for your grand auction then? It does, absolutely. Fellow Taoist, Huang Lao is willing to offer 2,000 low-grade spirit stones to purchase it outright. What say you? 2,000. It took me 4 years of grueling effort to accumulate just over 400. This old man speaks of 2,000 as if it were nothing. The buyout price must be at least 30% lower than the market value. I shall not sell it. Putting it up for auction is the better choice. If consigned for auction, the commission is 10%. Fellow Taoist, what would you like to receive in exchange? Spirit stones or a trade in kind? A trade in kind. I will take only half of the spirit stones. For the remaining half, I wish to trade for a top-tier concealment technique. It must not only mask my cultivation base, but also be capable of severing the divine sense of a foundation establishment cultivator. Furthermore, if you possess fragments of foundation establishment pills or discarded medicinal dross, they can also be used as payment. Without a powerful concealment technique, my secret regarding the gray gourd will surely be exposed sooner or later. Top-tier concealment techniques are rare, yet we happen to have one called the Withered Wood Meets Spring Manual. I believe this incomplete scroll fits your requirements. As for rare items like discarded foundation establishment pills, that will depend on your own fortune, fellow Taoist. This is a VIP jade token. At the hour of the rat 3 days from now, present this token to enter the heaven grade private room and claim your items. We of the Fragrant Shadow Pavilion accept this deal. I shall arrive myself in 3 days' time. Those 3 days of waiting felt longer than the 3 years I spent toiling in the Qingmu sect. I did not step foot outside my courtyard once, dedicating all my time to acclimating to my 7th layer Che refining spiritual power, and rehearsing my escape route from the auction house over and over again. At midnight on the 3rd day, clutching that purple gold token, I passed through the layers of guards at the Fragrant Shadow Pavilion without obstruction. This time I did not stop at the outer perimeter. Following the attendant through the tunnel, I was led directly to Heaven Grade Private Room number 3 on the 2nd floor. The room was not large, yet it was opulent to an extreme degree. The floor was paved with heart-of-the-earth jade, and the tables and chairs were fashioned from 10,000-year-old agarwood. Even the spiritual fruits provided for guests were rare treasure, seldom seen in the outside world. This one-way glazed crystal screen allows you to see everything clearly below, yet those outside cannot probe within under any circumstances. If you wish to place a bid, simply channel your spiritual energy into this sound-transmitting jade stone. The first floor was packed with nearly 1,000 masked rogue cultivators, while the 2nd floor housed 10 heaven-grade private rooms and 30 earth-grade private rooms. Those sitting within these rooms were undoubtedly figures from major cultivation clans or prominent elders from the various sects. The old man who received me that day stepped onto the stage, but the aura he exuded at this moment caused my pupils to shrink abruptly. Foundation Establishment Realm. The old man had concealed his true cultivation that day. In a mere instant, the chief appraiser of the Anxiang Pavilion, Mujenren Dongji, ceased his preamble. The grand auction shall now commence. The starting bid for the supreme grade defensive artifact, the Golden Turtle Shield, is 800 low-grade spirit stones, with a minimum increment of 50. 901. Even the finest flying sword artifact in my possession is merely of medium grade, yet this appetizer has already fetched an astronomical price of 1,300 stones. The massive sum of 400 stones I once took such pride in is not even enough to cover the fraction of a bid here. The next half-hour of proceedings completely shattered my perception of wealth. The closing price for each item was upwards of 2,000 spirit stones. I forced myself to remain calm. I am here for a cultivation manual and must not be blinded by material distractions. The next item up for auction is somewhat peculiar. It is a fragmented scroll of an ancient concealment technique, the Deadwood Spring Revival Art. Once mastered, this technique can perfectly mimic one's aura to that of a piece of rotting wood. Even the divine sense of a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator would find it difficult to discern. However, it is but a remnant scroll. To attempt to cultivate it, one must possess the incredibly rare heavenly spirit root, or one must have already refined a type of ancient wood attribute spirit object to serve as a conduit. Otherwise, forced cultivation will only result in the meridians drying up, leading to certain death. A heavenly spirit root is so rare that one might not appear in several centuries. Ancient wood attribute spirit objects are even more legendary. This item is, for all intents and purposes, utterly useless. Yet, as I sat within the private chamber, my heart felt as though it had been struck by a heavy sledgehammer. It pounded incessantly. 20 days ago, my gourd consumed a fragment of an ancient spirit vine. On the surface of the gourd, a vibrant golden vine pattern has since emerged. Could there be any conduit in this world more perfect than that? This remnant scroll is in truth tailor-made for me. The starting bid is 500 low-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 50. Let the bidding begin. Silence filled the hall. No one was willing to spend 500 spirit stones on a piece of junk that would lead to their own demise. To spend 500 spirit stones just to use it as a table prop would be a fool's errand, this young master thinks. 600. 700. Friend in the heaven-ranked chamber, it is but a remnant scroll. Why must you contend with me? Though I have only 400 stones in my bag, I possess the purple gold token, which allows me to borrow against it for life-protecting manuals. This is a price I can afford. 1,000. The entire crowd gasped in disbelief. To spend 1,000 spirit stones on such a useless item. Either he is a madman or he has far too much money. He has clearly lost his mind. The occupant of the Earth Tier private room has retreated. They will bid no further. 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. The transaction is successful. Congratulations to the occupant of the Heaven Tier private room number 3. Respected guest, for your Mufeng Chunjue, this sum of spirit stones will be deducted directly from your final auction proceeds. I put it down, and as soon as the door closed, I could not help but probe the manual with my divine sense. This is a supreme secret technique that far transcends my current understanding. With this in my possession, the greatest flaw in my cultivation can finally be remedied. And fellowists, the next item up for auction is one of the final treasures of this grand event. This old man dares to guarantee that all chi-refining great perfection practitioners, and even those at the foundation establishment stage, will go mad for it. A 200-year-old top-grade medicinal herb, the century-old red spirit branch. The starting bid is 200,000 low-grade spirit stones, with a minimum increment of 10,000. 280,000, 400,000. The span of a dozen breaths, it has already surpassed the 300,000 mark. The rogue cultivators on the first floor have fallen completely silent, leaving only the immortals in the second-floor private rooms to battle it out. 350,000 stones. The Wang family will take this red spirit branch. I ask you all to show some respect and yield. Old freak Wang, your useless grandson has been stuck at the 9th level of chi refining for years. Feeding him such a divine herb would be nothing but a waste. 400,000 low-grade spirit stones. Such a colossal sum is enough to purchase a top-tier dwelling in the inner city, or to support a personal guard of 100 practitioners at the late stage of chi refining. 450,000 stones. The transaction is successful. Congratulations to the occupant of the Heaven Tier private room number 1. As the gavel fell, I felt as if my entire vitality had been drained. I have made a fortune, yet it brings with it extreme danger. As soon as the auction concluded, I crushed the jade talisman. Servant, lead me to the deepest secret chamber of the Anxiang Pavilion at once. Fellow Daoist, here is your payment after all deductions. For the red spirit branch, 450,000 stones, after a 10% commission of 45,000 stones, and the 100,000 stones for the Mufeng Chunjue, the remaining 305,000 low-grade spirit stones are all here. For your convenience, I have taken the liberty of exchanging 300,000 of them into 30 mid-grade spirit stones. Consider this token of sincerity from the Anxiang Pavilion, as we wish to befriend you. The official exchange rate is 1 to 10. But in the black market, 1 mid-grade stone can typically be exchanged for 110 low-grade stones, and even more than 30 medium-grade spirit stones, along with 50 low-grade stones, not a single one missing. Many thanks. Please arrange an absolutely secure escape route. I do not wish for any tails following me. This is a random teleportation array. It will transport you to any dry well within a 30-mile radius outside the city. Fellow Taoist Jew, may your path to immortality remain evergreen. You are welcome to return at any time. A flash of white light erupted, followed by an intense sensation of weightlessness. Anxiang Pavilion was left far behind. Only when I smelled the earth of the outskirts again, mixed with the scent of low-quality medicinal herbs, did I feel at ease. I remained in a dead-end alley. I dared not head directly toward Willow Tree Lane. After wandering through winding detours 4 times and changing my attire 5 times, and even disguising myself as a mortal fertilizer collector, the old man finally slipped back into his courtyard just before dawn. I carefully activated the defensive formation at the door and collapsed onto the bed. My heart was still pounding. 30 medium-grade spirit stones, and a top-tier concealment technique. The humiliation and restraint of walking on thin ice for the past 7 years had finally received the most generous reward today. However, I knew that this was not yet the time to let my guard down completely. I took out the jade slip containing the incomplete manual and probed it with my divine sense. Then I lifted the gray gourd, which had already been fused with the withered wood, into the palm of my hand. Old friend, I am counting on you now. I took a deep breath and began to circulate my energy along that obscure pathway. As my 7th layer spiritual power completed one cycle, a deadly sensation of stagnation and exhaustion washed over me, as if my very life force were being forcibly drained away. This was the consequence of attempting to practice an incomplete manual. Just as I was about to lose control, the gourd shuddered, and the vine-like patterns upon it suddenly flared with light. An extremely pure and ancient aura, rich with vitality, surged forth. It flooded into me through my palm, instantly neutralizing the sensation of depletion and taking command of the flow. It guided my spiritual power to merge perfectly with the trajectory of the technique. 1 cycle, 2 cycles of the grand heavenly circulation. I knew not how much time had passed, but the first rays of dawn pierced into the room. If anyone could scan me with their divine sense now, I would appear as nothing more than a piece of dead wood, devoid of all life. No spiritual power, no breath. Even my life essence was strictly concealed. A thought stirred in my mind, and my aura began to shift at will. 3rd level of chi refining, halting steadily at the 4th level of chi refining, without a single flaw. Even if Master Mu, a foundation establishment stage cultivator, were standing before me, he would not be able to pierce through the truth of my 7th level chi refining cultivation. With the gray gourd in my hand, which brought me a staggering fortune of over 30 medium-grade spirit stones, I now possess the cultivation of the late stage of chi refining. From the fire control art with its astonishing power to the perfect woodlife revival art, I have transformed from a wretch at the bottom, living day to day, into a late-stage chi-refining cultivator possessing immense wealth. My journey on this path of mortal cultivation has been perilous at every turn. Yet I tread with meticulous caution, recalling the flying lights of the foundation establishment cultivators I witnessed in the sky before. In my heart there was once only fear and numbness, but now in my eyes there remains only composure and a burning ambition. Fei Yun City can no longer contain me. This vast and boundless southern region of the Tujin world, those lofty and unreachable foundation establishment realms, and even the illusory and ethereal path of the Golden Core, I, Wen Wu, have arrived.